Hey guys, this is Pete from MyJewelryBench.com. I'm here again with this fancy ring, and what we're going to do today is we're going to continue our tutorial on this fancy ring, and we're going to make this a diamond band. How we're going to make this a diamond band is basically we're going to cut out 5 holes in the surface of this, and I'm going to do this in a way that might be a little complicated, so watch this video a couple times if you have to. Practice, practice, practice. And I'm going to show you how to do this. What I want to do is I want to make a circle that's equal to the outer perimeter of the ring. To do that, I'm going to hit the Tab key and go into Edit mode. I'm going to hit A to select all, and then hit A again to deselect all. I'm going to hit the 3 key to find our center line. Our center line is this line right here. I'm going to hit one of those edges there. I'm going to press and hold the Alt key and hit that again. So basically I've created a ring around the outside perimeter of the band. Now I want to separate that ring from the ring itself. So I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate and press Enter. And I'm going to hit S to size that. Oops, hang on a second. Hit Escape to close that out. I'm still in proportional editing mode, so you saw the white circle appear on the screen. We're going to go turn that off. So come down to this little box if there's a little blue light in it. Come down here to Disable, so that's disabled. Now I've still got this ring selected. I'm going to press the S key and I'm going to size that. You can see it's no longer attached to the perimeter of the ring. I'm going to hit, after I size it a little bit, I'm going to hit the mouse button to make that permanent. The thing is, that ring is still attached to the band itself. So to separate this, you're going to learn a key stroke today. It's called P. P separates this item from the initial band. So I'm going to hit the P key and I'm going to hit Separate Selection. Now this ring is no longer attached to the band. If I hit Tab and go back into object mode, you can see I can select the band, and if I zoom in here I can select the ring itself. Now that ring is basically a mesh, and if I hit the Tab key to edit it, it's basically just a mesh in a ring, and what we need to do is convert that to a curve. We worked with curves before, so what I'm going to do is press Control C. Oh, that didn't do it. I'm going to press Shift C. Nope, that didn't do it. Let's go back. Control Z. I'm going to select my ring. I'm going to hit Alt C, and I'm going to say make this a curve from a mesh. And when I hit that, you'll see now the original torus is the band, and let's rename that. Just double click it and call this we'll call this ring. And now the torus.001, if we select that, you can see is our new curve, and it's a curve based on that little object next to it, which indicates it's a curve. So I'm going to double click that, and I'm going to call this we'll call this path, and press enter. Now path moved up because this is all in alphabetical order. You can still see it's a curve. With that done, what we want to do is we want to make a diamond cutout. Now making a diamond cutout can be pretty complicated if you want to make it complicated. It really is simple though. To make a cutout, what I'm going to do is hit Shift A to add a mesh, and we're going to add a mesh cylinder. Okay, and you can see it's kind of in the middle of what we're working on, so I'm going to bring that over here. I'm going to cancel that. Control Z. Control Z. Let's do Shift A. Let's add a new cylinder. And now under Properties, under Vertexes, I want you to raise that up to 64 and press Enter. So now there's 64 vertices along the perimeter of the cylinder. And let's move this out of the way. I want to take the face of this, so we're going to go into edit mode just to edit our cylinder. We're going to come down to the face tool, so select the face tool. Then I want you to select the top face, and you can click on the top face just by clicking any face you can select. but we want to select the top one. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit extrude. We're going to hit the E key to extrude, and you can see now we can move it up and down, and I'm going to move this along the Z axis. If yours is moving all over the place, then hit E and then Z, and it'll only go up and down. So I'm going to bring that up about like this, and then I'm going to hit the S key to size it, and I'm going to size it about like a diamond shape, the bottom of a diamond, about like that. And I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to hit the E key again, and we're going to extrude up again just a little bit, about like that. Now I'm going to hit the E key one more time, and I'm going to come up a little bit, and about like that. And then I'm going to hit S, and I'm going to size it in, just about like this. So if we look at this dimensionally, kind of looks like a round gemstone. I'm going to hit the Tab key, and what we have here now is our cutout. Now, if you hit Shift S, we can put this back to the center by selection to cursor, and that'll move it back to the middle of the screen. And I am going to size this down to make it a little smaller, and just to make sure it's going to fit in the ring, I'm going to bring that up to the top. And what I want to do now is make sure that when I lower this, we're actually going to put a hole through the surface of the band, and you can see our cutout protrudes from the bottom and it protrudes from the top. And that's basically how I want to make this. Now, I need to create 4 more instances of this. There's a couple ways to do it. I could hit Shift D and enter, and then make a copy, and basically do Shift D, enter, and then grab the arrow, kind of move it over. Then I could rotate it around the Y, kind of zoom it in and move it down like this. That's the hard way of doing that. Hit Control Z to cancel that here. Let's get back to our cylinder, and let's just select our cylinder. You can see up here it says cylinder in our objects window. I'm going to double click that and say cutout. So we're going to call that a cutout. Now, the easier way to do it is to apply a modifier to this, and the modifier basically would allow us to make an array. And if we select our cutout, we come over to modifier, and I hit add modifier. We have this array function here, and if I click that, you can see I can add as many as I want. I can get crazy. I only want 5, so we're going to select 5, and that gives me 5 instances of a cutout for my stone placement. So with that done, what I'll do now is I'm going to actually turn off the smooth shading. So we're going to go back up to, I'm going to select my band. I'm going to go make that a flat shade again so that we can see all the dimensional lines in our ring. So we'll just take a look at that, and that's about how I want the ring to look at as we're working with this. It's better to work with, sometimes it's better to work with a non-smoothed object. Now you'll notice if we look at this from a side view by pressing 1 on our keypad, our let's hit Control Z. If we select our if we select a cutout, we're selecting all the cutouts. So I've got 1 cutout, and basically I want to have 5, but I want to have these curve along the surface of the stone, or of the band. To do this, I'm going to take our cutouts, now that we have 5, and you'll notice that they're not really spaced apart from each other. We want a little bit of spacing in between them. I'm going to move these up a little bit. There we go. And if you look closely, there's no space in between each of the cutouts. So go over to our modifier property, which should still be on your screen, and you'll see under relative position or relative offset we have 1.0 units, and I'm going to increase that to 1.1. So now we have space in between each of our cutouts, and the reason for that is because a lot of instances you're going to add in a prong or a bead to hold the stone down. So this is how we're going to do it. We have something to work with in between each of the stones. The next thing I want to do is I want to add a modifier to this, and the modifier to my cutout array is going to be to follow a curve path. Now if you remember, we separated this this rim and we converted it to a curve. Now if I want my cutouts to follow this rim, then the rim has to be a curve object and not a mesh. You can't follow along a mesh. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come over to, I've got my cutout selected, I'm going to come over to my array or my modifier, and I'm going to hit the add modifier. Now we're leaving the array modifier in place, and we're going to come over to deform and curve. Now what that gives us is this added modifier, which we can select a curve. Under the object that we want to curve around, we're going to select path. And oh my God, what happened? Everything got stuck in the middle. Don't worry. You're going to grab the cursor for the object, which is the object orientation, which is now offset because it's following the curve path. And we're going to move that up. And you can see that if I move it up, I can get it to the point where it's just along the perimeter of the ring. But if we look at this from the side perspective, we notice that it's not in alignment. So we're not at the center. What you're going to come up here to your cursor for your array is you're going to grab this little arrow, the red arrow, and we're going to move it one way or the other until we get it where we want. And we want it right there, so that the center cutout is along the blue line or the z-axis about in the middle. Now once that's done, you can see I have all 5 cutouts protruding through my ring. The surfaces of the stones, or the cutout where the stone's going to be, is kind of within the band so that they're not just sticking out of the band, but you could also modify that. I'll press 1 and we'll come back over to here, and if I look at the blue thing, I can see I can move these up to about like that if I want, which let's do that. So now the perimeter of the cutout is on the surface of the stone, and that looks pretty good. We're still protruding from the bottom, and I'm going to apply the modifiers to our cutouts. So if I come over with the cutout selected, you see cutout is selected, I can apply all by hitting this button here to apply all. And basically it's going to apply the array of 5 units and the curvature along that path. So let's do that now. Apply all. Okay, we're done with this ring. So if we want to get rid of that ring, we can kind of get rid of that, move it out of the way. I'll just put it here. I'm going to press X to delete it. Oops. And go back into solid mode. Hopefully you won't do that. And now I still have one object that is a cutout, and I have a second object which is my band or my ring. Again, we're going to use the Boolean tool to take this and separate it or cut holes, and we want to cut 5 holes into our ring. So select your cutout, hold the shift key down, select the ring so that your cutouts have a red or an orange highlight to them and your ring has a yellow highlight to it. Go back to the Tools tab on the left, over to Bool Tools, and select Difference. Now what I've done is I've actually cut 5 holes into the top of the ring, which is pretty awesome. Now we did that in flat mode. I'm going to come back over to with the ring selected, I'm going to come back to our Tools tab, and I'm going to select Smooth, and then we're going to go and add another edge split modifier to this. So with the ring selected, go back over to the right side where the properties are, select Modifier or Add Modifier, and let's go and add an edge split. And you can see now we have a well-defined cutout with a smooth ring surface, and that's what we want, and that's going to give us a place to set our diamonds. Now one more thing, we need to add a little bead to each of these so that when we set the stones we have something to tie down to. So what I want to do now is basically take, well, you know, I did this wrong because I wiped out my rim. So probably shouldn't have deleted that rim. I did, so let's tell you how to correct that. What I'm going to do now is hit Shift A. I'm going to come down to Curve, and we're going to add a circle. And our circle is at the bottom. We're going to hit RX90 to rotate it along the x-axis 90 degrees, so it's straight up and down. I'm going to bring that up to our ring, and I'm going to hit the size key, and we're going to size that so it's just above, there we go, just above our band. With that done, now we have another ring that we can follow, another path. So you can see this one's called Bezier circle. I'm just going to change this, double click it, and I'm going to call this path. So we've got a second path, but the first one's gone. So now what I want to do is add little beads to the spaces in between, right here, right here, right here, so that when I set my diamond, I have a little bead or prong to push down on to hold the diamond in place. You need that if you want to set a diamond, so that's just something you have to make sure you think about when you're designing jewelry for 3D printing. How am I going to do this? I have two options. I can make a cylinder and size it down small enough so that it's a little tube. So if we did like Shift A, add a mesh, come down to cylinder. Now I've got the cylinder here. I'll move this up so that we can work on it. I'm going to size this down real small like that, and come in and zoom. Shift B. I'm going to zoom in here, and let's just bring this down, and then I could kind of move this over, and you can see I've got this little prong. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Boom. But I don't necessarily want this to be, it's got to be at the right angle. So I'm going to hit 1 to view this from a perspective view on my keyboard. And I'm going to come over and put this along there so it's in the middle. And now what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to make 6 beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because we have 5 stones, but we need 6 places to push those prongs down onto our gemstone. So we're going to do, again, an array modifier on this prong. I'm going to size it up a little bit. So we're going to hit S, Z, and I'm going to make this a little longer. There we go, right about there. So again, we're going to add a modifier, an array modifier to this. So with your prong set or selected, come over to modifiers, hit the add modifier button, and select array. And then we're going to add 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, you can see they're not spaced at all. They're basically stuck in there. I'm going to give these a little bit of space in between. We're going to kind of spread them out a little bit, and we're going to do this by eye. Again, now we want to get these like we did our cutouts. We want them to conform along the perimeter of the diamond, or of the band. So I'm going to, with my array of prongs selected, I'm going to come over and hit add modifier and then hit curve. So we're going to follow a curve. Again, we're going to come down to the objects and we're going to select path, and where'd they go? They're gone. They're way down at the bottom, so we got to move these up. Okay, right there. Okay. Now, the worst thing about this is your cursor kind of gets all messed up. So we're going to zoom in here, and I'm going to align these so that my first object is kind of right about where I want it. So that's about where I want my prong to be. And then I can come over to the spacing, and I can just keep spacing this until I get about there, and I've got this first prong right at the first section, and I'm going to come over here, and you see the last prong is about at the other side of the diamond, and each of the corresponding prongs in the middle is about where they need to be. With that done, I'm going to apply all, but first I kind of want to lower these a little bit, so we're going to kind of lower, Control Z. I'm going to grab my cylinder, and I'm going to kind of move these along the Z-axis. So grab the blue arrow And you can see I can adjust them, and that's about where I want them. Perfect. If I zoom in, everything's kind of hidden. Perfect. Okay. Now, again, we've got our 6 prongs surrounding our 5 cutouts, and we're going to hit the apply all on the modifier. So we still have basically 3 objects on the screen. We have this one circle. We're going to get rid of that now because we aren't going to use it again. So I'm going to hit X to delete, select delete, and now we've got our prongs and we've got our ring. With those selected, we're going to hit the prongs button, hold the shift key down, select the ring, and now I've got my 2 objects highlighted as one, and under Boolean on the Tools tab, we're going to come down to Union. So select Union. There we go. Now we have one object, which is called our ring, and it has 6 prongs and 5 cutouts. And that is it. That is how I modeled this band to have 5 cutouts perfectly for the prongs. So with that being done now, what I want to do is I want to render this so that you can see what it looks like. So we're going to highlight the ring, we're going to come over to material, make sure it's still gold, and then I'm going to come over to my viewport, set the camera view, kind of zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to render this out. I'll speed it up so you can see what it looks like after. Okay guys, so that's the rendered version of what our ring is going to look like when it's all created. Now if I send it out for casting, it's going to come out basically from casting looking just like that. This is not what I typically show a customer. I typically show a customer the ring with the stones in it. So I'm just going to do a quick rendering with 5 stones in this ring, and I'm going to give you an idea of what it looks like when you're done with it and you want to show a customer the finished product, whether it's with sapphires, diamonds, whatever. So I'm going to do a quick edit and rendering of that. And that, guys, is what the finished product looked like. It looks like a diamond ring, and that's kind of what we were hoping for. A lot of times, this is the final product that I'll show the customer when I'm doing a design. I don't typically show them something without the stones because they'll come to me and they'll say, can you make me a ring and put these stones in it, and this is how I want it to look. So I tend to work with the stones they want, the color of the gold that they want, and all of that. And that's pretty much how we do it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. And I put out videos at least once a week, sometimes more. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to let anybody know about what we're doing here, share this on social media. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. I appreciate you watching.